Please comment where you're watching for, and please consider becoming a channel member to support our channel. When you meet someone online, you always brace for a little weirdness. Maybe their photos are 10 years old. Maybe they exaggerate their height. Maybe they forget to mention a girlfriend or 3 kids. I was prepared for quirks, for awkward conversation, even for a disappointing kiss. What I wasn't prepared for was, well, you'll see. His name was Brent. 33, divorced, supposedly laid back, outdoorsy, spontaneous. His profile had him on hiking trails at a beach bonfire, holding a golden retriever puppy. He wasn't drop-dead gorgeous, but he looked like the kind of guy you could have a beer with, laugh over dumb movies, maybe trust with your Netflix password after a few months. We met at a quiet bar. First impression, not bad. A little taller than I expected, with that boyish grin guys keep long after they should have grown out of it. He bought me a drink right away, asked decent questions, and didn't seem like a murderer. So far, so good. 2 hours and 3 whiskey sours later, I felt loose, flirty. We kissed outside the bar, and it wasn't bad. A little sloppy but passionate. I was debating whether to call it a night when he leaned in and whispered, "You should come back to my place." I hesitated. Every woman knows that moment, the mental coin toss between fun adventure and terrible mistake. Maybe it was the whiskey, maybe it was his puppy dog smile, but I heard myself say yes. We Ubered to his apartment. From the outside it looked fine, a modest building, red brick, nothing creepy. But the second we stepped inside his unit, I felt the shift. The smell hit me first. Not rank, exactly, but heavy. Stale beer mixed with something metallic, something sour. My stomach tightened. Then the clutter. Empty soda cans stacked on counters. Crumpled fast food bags. A floor that looked like it hadn't seen a vacuum in years. "Sorry, didn't know I'd have company tonight," Brent said with a laugh, nudging aside a pile of laundry with his foot. I forced a smile. "No worries." But inside I was screaming, "This is not good. This is not good." He led me to his bedroom. That's when I saw them. The pillows. At first, my brain didn't register what I was looking at. The fabric was a dull beige, but covered in deep rust-colored blotches, big and small, soaked through the cases and into the stuffing. I froze in the doorway, my breath catching. "Oh, don't mind those," he said casually, tossing his jacket onto the bed like this was perfectly normal. "Nosebleeds. I get them sometimes." Sometimes? These weren't stains from sometimes. This looked like a crime scene. Dried blood across both pillows, speckles on the comforter, even faint smears on the headboard. I laughed nervously. Maybe you should get new pillowcases?" He shrugged. "They're just gonna get dirty again. Waste of money." I should have left right then. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But something about the way he sprawled across the bloody pillows, grinning at me, rooted me to the spot. It was grotesque. Hypnotic. "Come sit," he said, patting the bed. I perched on the very edge, as far from the stains as possible. That's when I noticed more details. The carpet, mottled with dark spots like someone had spilled coffee or worse. The nightstand, littered with empty beer cans and, God help me, for disposable razors, rusted and clogged with clumps of hair. "Thirsty?" Brent asked. He reached down and pulled an open can of beer from under the bed, took a swig, then offered it to me. I shook my head quickly. "I'm good." He chuckled. "Suit yourself. More for me." I tried to distract myself, tried to pretend this was salvageable. I asked him about his job. "Oh, I'm between gigs right now," he said, waving his hand dismissively. "Got my license suspended, so commuting's a pain. Plus, my ex is hounding me about child support. Can't deal with that drama." "Child support?" I repeated carefully. "Yeah, my kid. Haven't met him yet, though. Don't see the point until he's old enough to remember. Why bother, right?" He laughed like he'd just said something clever. I stared at him, horrified. He leaned closer, lowering his voice into what I think he thought was seductive. "But I'm a good guy. Real good. You'll see." Something inside me snapped. I stood up abruptly. I should go." Brent frowned. "Already? Come on, don't be like that. We're just getting started." "I have an early morning," I stammered, inching toward the door. He sighed dramatically, flopping back onto his gore-streaked pillows like a Victorian maiden. "Always the same. Nobody wants something real. Just a bunch of flakes." I didn't answer. I bolted. The Uber ride home felt like escaping a haunted house. I sat in silence, heart racing, replaying the images, the blood-soaked bedding, the razors, the casual way he dismissed his own child. I scrubbed my hands with sanitizer until they burned, though I hadn't even touched anything. When I got home, I stripped, showered, and threw my clothes straight into the wash. The idea that his apartment smell might have clung to me made me nauseous. Later, lying in my clean bed, I thought about how easily that night could have gone differently. If I'd ignored the stains. If I'd stayed, drunk enough to overlook the filth. If I'd fallen asleep on those pillows. The thought still makes my skin crawl. And the worst part, 2 days later, he texted. Just one line. You left your hair tie here. Want to come get it? I never answered. When I look back now, it feels insane that I ever thought meeting someone from IRC was a good idea. But this was before Tinder, before Bumble, before swiping left and right was even part of our vocabulary. Back then, chat rooms were the wild frontier, mysterious handles, endless scrolls of text, and the vague hope that the stranger typing you up at 3 a.m. might actually be your soulmate. Her handle was Luna Love. That should have been my first warning. Anyone calling themselves Love on the internet in all lowercase was either a scammer or a future therapy bill. But she seemed funny, sharp, a little chaotic, which back then felt edgy instead of dangerous. She said she was 19, living a couple hours away, working part-time at a bookstore. She liked The Cure, smoked clove cigarettes, and called me babe after a week. We started talking almost every night. Hours would disappear. She'd type long, messy paragraphs about how lonely she was, how different she felt from everyone around her, how she thought I was the only person who got her. And I won't lie, for a 21-year-old guy who hadn't had much luck in the romance department, that kind of attention was intoxicating. We even said the L word. Too soon, way too soon, but when you're young and stupid, typing I love you across a glowing screen feels like destiny. So when she said she wanted to visit, I said yes. She arrived on a rainy Friday afternoon. I still remember watching her step off the bus. My stomach dropped. She looked younger, much younger. She had this baby face, braces peeking when she smiled, an oversized hoodie drowning her frame. I told myself maybe she just looked young for her age. People get carded at 21, right? Maybe that was all it was. But then she hugged me tight, desperate, like she was clinging on for dear life, and whispered, finally. That was the moment my gut screamed, this is wrong. Still, I took her back to my apartment. Maybe it was politeness, maybe stupidity, maybe fear of being cruel. We ordered pizza. She immediately curled up on my couch like she owned the place, flipping channels, asking where she could put her stuff. She'd brought a duffel bag, a heavy one. When she unzipped it, half my living room filled with clothes, random makeup, and a disturbing number of stuffed animals. Thought I'd stay a while, she said, winking. My pulse spiked. How long exactly? As long as you'll have me. That was not the answer I wanted. The weekend spiraled fast. She was a hurricane of chaos. The first night, she flooded my bathroom. I woke to the sound of running water, stumbled in to find her sitting cross-legged in the tub with the shower on full blast, water spilling over the edges. When I yelled, she just laughed. Oops. Guess I lost track of time. By Saturday morning, she'd knocked over a lamp, broken a plate, and somehow managed to spill nail polish all over my rug. She left wet towels everywhere, blasted my speakers with My Chemical Romance, and called me hubby in this sing-song voice that made my skin crawl. The worst part was how touchy she was, clingy in a way that didn't feel flattering, but suffocating. If I so much as stood up to grab a drink, she'd latch onto my arm. If I went to the kitchen, she'd follow. At night, when I tried to sleep, she insisted on tangling herself around me like ivy. By Sunday, I was exhausted. And then came the bombshell. We were eating cereal when she blurted, "By the way, I'm 16. I froze, spoon halfway to my mouth. "What?" She giggled. "Relax. Almost 17. My stomach dropped to the floor. Everything snapped into horrific clarity. The braces, the immaturity, the way she kept talking about sneaking out of her parents' house to get online. She hadn't just lied about her age, she'd lied about everything. I stood up, heart hammering. "You need to leave. Now." Her smile vanished. "Are you serious? After everything we've shared? We had one weekend. And you lied to me. You're a kid." That's when the screaming started. She flipped from sweet to furious in an instant, hurling insults, accusing me of betraying her, of abandoning her. She stomped into my bedroom, started rifling through my drawers, knocking things onto the floor. When I tried to stop her, she shoved past me and slammed the bathroom door. Moments later, I heard the shower running again, and the unmistakable sound of water pouring out across the tile. I pounded on the door. "Stop it! You're flooding the place." No answer. Just giggles. By the time I forced it open, the bathroom looked like a war zone. Towels floating, shampoo bottles knocked over, water sloshing onto the hallway carpet. She stood there, soaked, mascara running down her cheeks like black tears. "You don't love me," she said. That was the last straw. I told her she had to pack up and leave. I even offered to pay for her bus back. But she wouldn't go quietly. The moment I stepped away, she grabbed my phone. When I wrestled it back, she screamed bloody murder, as if I'd attacked her. The neighbors probably thought I was killing her. She finally stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame cracked. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. That night, my phone started buzzing. Calls. Texts. Dozens, then hundreds. "Please don't do this. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. I'll kill myself if you don't call me. Pick up, pick up, pick up." She called 197 times in 2 days. Left voicemails sobbing, sometimes laughing, sometimes whispering my name. When I didn't answer, she sent emails. Then MySpace messages. She even found my mom's Facebook and sent her a friend request. I blocked every number, every account, but she kept making new ones. I'd wake up to 50 new notifications, my inbox choked with her words. Some messages were love letters. Others were threats. One simply read, "You'll never escape me." For weeks, I lived in paranoia. Every time the phone buzzed, my stomach twisted. Every time I walked home, I half expected her to be waiting outside, soaked in rain, clutching her stuffed animals. Eventually, the calls slowed. The emails stopped. She vanished from my life as suddenly as she'd stormed into it. I used to think the scariest thing about dating apps was showing up and finding out someone looked nothing like their pictures. Maybe they'd shaved 10 years off their photos, or conveniently forgotten to mention they were 5'2" when their bio said 6'1". Maybe they'd try to split the bill after ordering 3 appetizers, 2 entrees, and the priciest cocktail on the menu. But I was wrong, because the real horror isn't getting catfished. The real horror is realizing someone has attached themselves to you after one single date, one awkward coffee in broad daylight, and decided that you're not just a crush, not just a fling, but the center of their universe. It started innocently enough. Her name was Serafina. At least, that's what she said on her profile. A little unusual, but I thought maybe her parents were hippies. Her photos were decent, a lot of bathroom selfies, the kind where the phone hides half her face, but she had a sharp smile, bright eyes, dyed red hair. Her bio was short. No liars, no cheaters, no players. Serious only. Red flag? Maybe. But after weeks of swiping, she at least seemed like she'd respond in full sentences, so I matched. Our chat was fine. She asked a lot of rapid-fire questions, the kind that made me feel like I was filling out a survey more than flirting. Favorite movie? Favorite food? Did I want kids? Was I financially stable? How often did I talk to my mother? What was my 5-year plan? I should have taken the interrogation vibe as a warning, but I chalked it up to nerves. Maybe she'd just been burned before. So when she suggested coffee, I agreed. We met at a quiet little cafe downtown. She showed up in a tight black dress and stilettos, wildly overdressed for 2 p.m. lattes, but I tried not to judge. She hugged me too long, pressed her body against mine like we were reuniting lovers instead of strangers. "Wow," she said, brushing her hair back. "You're taller than I thought." That's a relief. I laughed awkwardly, ordered us drinks. She talked, and talked, and talked. The date itself was painfully awkward. She didn't ask about my interests so much as test me. Every answer I gave seemed to be the wrong one. I liked hiking. "Oh, so you're one of those guys who think climbing a hill makes you deep." I said my favorite food was sushi. That's basic. Everyone says sushi. She told me about her exes, all cheaters, liars, monsters. She told me about her childhood trauma, her issues with her mother, her dream of quitting her job to become a spiritual healer. She even admitted, halfway through her latte, that she sometimes drove by her ex's house just to make sure he's suffering. I should have run then. But instead, I smiled politely, listened, tried to keep things civil. Because I'm not the type to just walk out. I figured 1 hour of my life, then I'd never see her again. When the date wrapped, I gave her a polite hug, told her it was nice meeting her, and left. No spark, no chemistry, no second date. That was it. Or so I thought. The first text came 2 hours later. "Hey, smiley face, had such a good time today. When can we see each other again?" I hesitated, then replied, "Thanks, but I don't think we're a match. I wish you the best." Polite. Clear. Direct. Her response came instantly. Wait, what? Why? I didn't answer. Sometimes silence is the best response. 5 minutes later, you seemed into me. Was it something I said? Be honest. 10 minutes after that. Typical. All guys are the same. I thought you were different. I sighed, put my phone down, tried to forget it. By the next morning, I had 15 messages. You led me on. Do you think this is funny? I bet you're talking to some slut right now. Answer me. Answer me. And then the shift. You should put on your CV that you're a dickhead. Like under special skills. Breaking hearts and being cruel. Who raised you? No wonder you're single. Each text got nastier, like she was spitting venom straight through the screen. I blocked her number. Problem solved, right? Wrong. That afternoon, I got a message from an unknown number. Blocking me won't make me disappear. My chest tightened. How did she get another number so fast? Burner phone? App? I didn't reply. 2 hours later. You can't ghost me. I don't allow it. That night, I know where you live. I froze. Did she? I racked my brain. I hadn't told her my address, hadn't even mentioned my neighborhood. But what if she'd followed me after coffee? What if she'd watched me walk to my car? I told myself she was bluffing, just trying to scare me. Until 2 days later, when I found a note taped to my windshield. You left me no choice. Call me. I stood in the parking lot, staring at the sloppy handwriting, my pulse thudding in my ears. I didn't call. The texts kept coming, each from a new number, each more unhinged than the last. You're mine. You just don't see it yet. I dreamed about our wedding. You looked so handsome. I'll ruin you if you keep ignoring me. Your silence is abuse. Do you know that? It was whiplash, love bombing 1 second, threats the next. She'd say I was her soulmate, then call me a worthless pig. She'd beg for forgiveness, then scream through the screen in all caps. One night, my phone buzzed at 3 a.m. I groggily checked it, expecting another rant. Instead, it was a photo of me, walking into my apartment building, taken from across the street. My blood ran cold. Cute hoodie, winky face, the message read. I didn't sleep that night. I double-locked my doors, closed all the blinds, sat awake with every light on, staring at the shadows. In the morning, I reported her on the app. I told my friends. I considered going to the police, but what would I even say? A girl I had one coffee with is texting me too much? They'd laugh me out of the station. So I tried to wait it out. Block, ignore, repeat. But she didn't stop. For weeks, she flooded my phone, my email, even my social media with new accounts. She left voicemails, screaming, sobbing, singing love songs off key. She once sent me an audio recording of her whispering my name over and over for a full 5 minutes. It was like being haunted. The breaking point came one night when I heard a noise outside my window. A faint tap, like nails on glass. My stomach twisted. I crept to the blinds, heart pounding, and peeked out. She was there, standing on the sidewalk, staring up at me. Her red hair glowed under the streetlight. Her smile was wide, unblinking. And in her hand, she held a bouquet of wilted roses. I stumbled back, nearly tripping. By the time I grabbed my phone to call someone, she was gone. Vanished into the night. That was the last time I saw her in person. But the messages didn't stop. Even now, months later, I still get them. Different numbers, different names. Sometimes just a single word, hi. Sometimes whole paragraphs about how much she loves me, how much she hates me, how much she needs me. And sometimes the worst ones, the ones that make me keep the blinds shut and the doors locked. I'll always know where you are. Coffee was just the beginning. See you soon. One awkward date. 1 cup of coffee. That's all it took to invite a ghost into my life. Not the kind that fades, but the kind that lingers, claws at your sanity, and never truly leaves. There are bad dates, and then there are the ones that crawl under your skin and make you question humanity. The kind that don't just make you cringe later when you're retelling the story to friends. The kind that still echo in your head weeks later when you're alone, when you wake up at night replaying every awful second, wondering how anyone could be so casually cruel. That's what this one was. It didn't start that way, of course. They never do. I matched with him on an app after a week of dull conversations with men whose openers were, hey, or you up. His profile wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. He had the standard lineup of pictures, a suit and tie photo at a wedding, a slightly blurry selfie in a gym mirror, a shot holding a golden retriever puppy that I was 90% sure wasn't his. His bio was short. Work hard, play harder. Looking for someone who can keep up, winky face. Not my dream man, but he looked normal enough. And after weeks of nothing but men sending unsolicited photos and WID texts at 2 a.m., normal felt refreshing. So when he suggested coffee, I agreed. Neutral territory. Easy exit if it went badly. When I arrived at the cafe, he was already there, leaning back in his chair with a practiced smirk. He stood when he saw me, kissed me on the cheek like we were old friends, and I caught the sharp punch of cologne that smelled like it had been scooped straight out of a gas station bargain bin. "Wow," he said, giving me a quick up and down. "Even prettier than your pics. And not catfishing me, that's a first. Charming." Still, I smiled, sat down, ordered a latte. For the first 10 minutes, it was fine. Small talk. He had a decent job in sales, lived in a condo he was very proud of, and liked to travel when work allowed. He made a few slightly cocky jokes about his gym routine, but nothing too alarming. I thought maybe this would just be another mediocre date. Nothing sparks, nothing burns. Just two strangers sharing overpriced coffee before politely ghosting each other. But then the conversation shifted. "So what about your family?" he asked, swirling his espresso like he was in a commercial. I hesitated. That was always a tricky subject, but I figured honesty couldn't hurt. "Well, my dad's been through a lot this past year. He had colon cancer. He's in remission now, thankfully, but it was tough." There was a pause. In that pause, I expected the usual responses. Sympathy. Concern. A simple, "I'm glad he's okay." But instead, he smirked wider. "Oh," he said, leaning back. "Colon cancer, huh? So your dad's a fag?" I blinked. The words hung there, absurd, unbelievable, like they couldn't possibly mean what I just heard. "I'm sorry?" I asked, hoping maybe I'd misheard. Maybe the clatter of dishes had twisted his words. "You know," he said, grinning, tapping his temple like he was letting me in on a secret. "Only people who like getting pounded in the ass get colon cancer." He said it so casually, so smugly, like he was reciting some profound truth of the universe. My stomach dropped. My dad, who had endured chemo, surgeries, sleepless nights hooked up to machines, moments where we weren't sure he'd make it, was reduced in this man's mind to a disgusting punchline. "That's not," I started then stopped. My voice cracked. "That's not even remotely funny." He chuckled. "Relax, babe. It's just a joke." I could feel my pulse in my ears. "You think cancer is funny? Hey, don't shoot the messenger." He sipped his drink, completely unfazed. "It's science. You play with the back door, eventually you get problems in the back door. That's just how it works." He winked. Actually winked. I sat frozen, torn between rage and disbelief. Was this real? Was I on some hidden camera prank show? No one with a soul could actually say something like that, right? But then he leaned forward, lowering his voice like he was sharing a dirty secret. "I mean, between you and me? Bet your dad had a wild side your mom never knew about." That was it. I stood so fast my chair screeched against the tile. Heads turned. Conversations paused. He looked up at me, still smirking, still thinking he was hilarious. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Literally anywhere but here." He let out a laugh, loud, obnoxious, cutting through the cafe noise. "Wow. Sensitive much? Can't even take a joke. Figures." I stormed out, hands shaking so badly I could barely pull my phone from my bag. I texted my best friend with trembling fingers. "Me date over." He just called my dad a fag because he had colon cancer. She called immediately, her voice sharp. "What? Where are you?" "I'm coming." I sat on a bench outside, trying not to cry, trying not to throw up, trying not to replay his voice in my head. People walked by, oblivious. Inside, he went back to scrolling his phone like nothing had happened. And then my phone buzzed. One message from him. "You forgot you are coffee, LOL." I stared. My stomach knotted. Another message. "Don't be mad. You know it was funny." And then the one that chilled me. "Tell you are dad," I said, hi, winky face. I blocked him instantly, heart pounding. But that wasn't the end. Because creeps like him never stop at one boundary crossed. Over the next week, I kept seeing new numbers pop up on my phone. At first I ignored them, but then the texts came. "You're overreacting. You owe me another chance. I was testing you. You failed. Your dad's probably not even sick. Bet you made it up for attention." Each message crawled into me, sticky and venomous. Some nights I turned my phone off just to sleep, but I always woke to a flood of new ones. One night, the messages got darker. "Bet your dad screams like a bitch in the hospital." Shoulda laughed. It was funny. "I'll see you again. Small city. Can't hide forever." That was when the humor drained out of the story. What had been an offensive, nightmare date suddenly felt dangerous. Real. I found myself checking over my shoulder when I left the apartment, peeking out my blinds at night, jumping at the sound of my phone. I told myself he was bluffing, that he was just a pathetic man who thought cruelty was clever. But there was something about his persistence, the way he wouldn't let go, that made me feel like I'd accidentally brushed against something rotten, something that wanted to spread. And the worst part, somewhere right now he's probably still out there, sitting in a cafe with another unsuspecting woman, flashing that smirk, waiting for the perfect moment to deliver his joke. I just hope she gets up faster than I did. I used to think the scariest thing about dating apps was showing up and finding out someone looked nothing like their pictures. Maybe they'd shaved 10 years off their photos, or conveniently forgotten to mention they were 5'2" when their bio said 6'1". Maybe they'd try to split the bill after ordering 3 appetizers, 2 entrees, and the priciest cocktail on the menu. But I was wrong, because the real horror isn't getting catfished. The real horror is realizing someone has attached themselves to you after one single date, one awkward coffee in broad daylight, and decided that you're not just a crush, not just a fling, but the center of their universe. It started innocently enough. Her name was Serafina. At least, that's what she said on her profile. A little unusual, but I thought maybe her parents were hippies. Her photos were decent, a lot of bathroom selfies, the kind where the phone hides half her face, but she had a sharp smile, bright eyes, dyed red hair. Her bio was short. No liars, no cheaters, no players. Serious only. Red flag? Maybe. But after weeks of swiping, she at least seemed like she'd respond in full sentences, so I matched. Our chat was fine. She asked a lot of rapid-fire questions, the kind that made me feel like I was filling out a survey more than flirting. Favorite movie? Favorite food? Did I want kids? Was I financially stable? How often did I talk to my mother? What was my 5-year plan? I should have taken the interrogation vibe as a warning, but I chalked it up to nerves. Maybe she'd just been burned before. So when she suggested coffee, I agreed. We met at a quiet little cafe downtown. She showed up in a tight black dress and stilettos, wildly overdressed for 2 p.m. lattes, but I tried not to judge. She hugged me too long, pressed her body against mine like we were reuniting lovers instead of strangers. Wow, she said, brushing her hair back. You're taller than I thought. That's a relief. I laughed awkwardly, ordered us drinks. She talked, and talked, and talked. The date itself was painfully awkward. She didn't ask about my interests so much as test me. Every answer I gave seemed to be the wrong one. I liked hiking. Oh, so you're one of those guys who think climbing a hill makes you deep. I said my favorite food was sushi. That's basic. Everyone says sushi. She told me about her exes, all cheaters, liars, monsters. She told me about her childhood trauma, her issues with her mother, her dream of quitting her job to become a spiritual healer. She even admitted, halfway through her latte, that she sometimes drove by her ex's house just to make sure he's suffering. I should have run then. But instead, I smiled politely, listened, tried to keep things civil. Because I'm not the type to just walk out. I figured 1 hour of my life, then I'd never see her again. When the date wrapped, I gave her a polite hug, told her it was nice meeting her, and left. No spark, no chemistry, no second date. That was it. Or so I thought. The first text came 2 hours later. Hey, smiley face, had such a good time today. When can we see each other again? I hesitated, then replied, Thanks, but I don't think we're a match. I wish you the best. Polite. Clear. Direct. Her response came instantly. Wait, what? Why? I didn't answer. Sometimes silence is the best response. 5 minutes later, you seemed into me. Was it something I said? Be honest. 10 minutes after that. Typical. All guys are the same. I thought you were different. I sighed, put my phone down, tried to forget it. By the next morning, I had 15 messages. You led me on. Do you think this is funny? I bet you're talking to some slut right now. Answer me. Answer me. And then the shift. You should put on your CV that you're a dickhead. Like under special skills. Breaking hearts and being cruel. Who raised you? No wonder you're single. Each text got nastier, like she was spitting venom straight through the screen. I blocked her number. Problem solved, right? Wrong. That afternoon, I got a message from an unknown number. Blocking me won't make me disappear. My chest tightened. How did she get another number so fast? Burner phone? App? I didn't reply. 2 hours later, You can't ghost me. I don't allow it. That night, I know where you live. I froze. Did she? I racked my brain. I hadn't told her my address, hadn't even mentioned my neighborhood. But what if she'd followed me after coffee? What if she'd watched me walk to my car? I told myself she was bluffing, just trying to scare me. Until 2 days later, when I found a note taped to my windshield. You left me no choice. Call me. I stood in the parking lot, staring at the sloppy handwriting, my pulse thudding in my ears. I didn't call. The texts kept coming, each from a new number, each more unhinged than the last. You're mine. You just don't see it yet. I dreamed about our wedding. You look so handsome. I'll ruin you if you keep ignoring me. Your silence is abuse. Do you know that? It was whiplash, love bombing 1 second, threats the next. She'd say I was her soulmate, then call me a worthless pig. She'd beg for forgiveness, then scream through the screen in all caps. One night, my phone buzzed at 3 a.m. I groggily checked it, expecting another rant. Instead, it was a photo of me, walking into my apartment building, taken from across the street. My blood ran cold. Cute hoodie, winky face, the message read. I didn't sleep that night. I double-locked my doors, closed all the blinds, sat awake with every light on, staring at the shadows. In the morning, I reported her on the app. I told my friends. I considered going to the police, but what would I even say? A girl I had one coffee with is texting me too much? They'd laugh me out of the station. So I tried to wait it out. Block, ignore, repeat. But she didn't stop. For weeks, she flooded my phone, my email, even my social media with new accounts. She left voicemails, screaming, sobbing, singing love songs off-key. She once sent me an audio recording of her whispering my name over and over for a full 5 minutes. It was like being haunted. The breaking point came one night when I heard a noise outside my window. A faint tap, like nails on glass. My stomach twisted. I crept to the blinds, heart pounding, and peeked out. She was there, standing on the sidewalk, staring up at me. Her red hair glowed under the streetlight. Her smile was wide, unblinking. And in her hand, she held a bouquet of wilted roses. I stumbled back, nearly tripping. By the time I grabbed my phone to call someone, she was gone. Vanished into the night. That was the last time I saw her in person. But the messages didn't stop. Even now, months later, I still get them. Different numbers, different names. Sometimes just a single word, hi. Sometimes whole paragraphs about how much she loves me, how much she hates me, how much she needs me. And sometimes the worst ones, the ones that make me keep the blinds shut and the doors locked. I'll always know where you are. Coffee was just the beginning. See you soon. One awkward date. One cup of coffee. That's all it took to invite a ghost into my life. Not the kind that fades, but the kind that lingers, claws at your sanity, and never truly leaves. When I first matched with Greg, I thought, finally, someone normal. He was cute in a rugged, slightly scruffy way, like the kind of man who might chop firewood shirtless in a romance novel. His profile said he worked construction, loved dogs, and cooked a mean steak. Compared to the parade of magicians, wannabe influencers, and men posing with fish, Greg felt like a solid, earthy choice. We texted for a couple of weeks, trading memes and half-flirty messages that suggested he had a wicked sense of humor. So when he offered to drive 2 hours from his small town to come see me, I thought, bold move, but flattering. He made it sound like some romantic adventure. He'd hop in his truck, blast classic rock, and roll into my city like a man on a mission. He even said he'd bring a bottle of vodka, so we could toast the night. I didn't think much of it at the time. Big mistake. The evening he arrived, I could tell immediately he'd already been drinking. Not just a beer to take the edge off the long drive. No, Greg stumbled out of his truck with a grin too wide, eyes glassy, and a half-empty handle of vodka clutched like a prize. "Baby," he slurred, throwing his arms wide like we were lovers reunited after war. I'd never seen him in person before. We'd spoken exactly twice on the phone. Hey," I said, trying to play it cool as my stomach clenched. "You made it." "Course I made it," he said, leaning in way too close. His breath was practically flammable. "I drove so fast. Couldn't wait to see that sexy smile of yours." Before I could step back, he planted a sloppy kiss on my cheek. His lips were wet. Too wet. I wiped it discreetly, already recalculating the night. We went upstairs to my apartment. He immediately collapsed on my couch, stretched out like he owned it, and cracked open his vodka bottle. No chaser, no glass, just straight from the neck. "You want some?" he asked, waving it at me like an offering. "I'm good," I said carefully. He pouted. Come on, don't be boring. Have a drink with me. Celebrate. I'm not much of a vodka girl. That's when he leaned forward, his voice dropping to a husky whisper. I bet I could make you like it. Bet I could pour it down your body and lick it clean. I blinked. Greg. What? He shrugged. It's romantic. It wasn't. It was creepy, messy, and the first solid red flag of the evening. I tried steering things toward normalcy, suggesting dinner, maybe ordering in, playing music. But Greg wasn't interested. His sole mission was to drink, paw at me, and make me as uncomfortable as possible while pretending he was Casanova. At one point, he lunged across the couch, mouth open, trying to kiss me full on. I turned my head and got slobbered on the ear instead. He moaned, like my ear was a 5-star meal. I pushed him back. Greg, stop. He frowned, swigged vodka, and slurred. Don't play hard to get. I drove 2 hours for this. You owe me. That sentence hit like a slap. Owe me. Like my body was some kind of transaction for gas mileage. I stood, furious but also scared. No, I don't owe you anything. You came because you wanted to. His face twisted, then smoothed into a smile that was far more terrifying. Fine. If you don't want to kiss me now, you'll change your mind later. I'll just sleep in your bed. You'll see. I barked a laugh. No, you will not. Yes, I will, he said, standing up unsteadily. I drove 2 hours. I'm not sleeping on no couch. I want to cuddle up to you in your bed. Smell your hair. My skin crawled. Greg, that's not happening. You can take the couch or drive back. That's when the mask cracked. He slammed the vodka down on the table so hard it rattled. You think you're better than me? Huh. You think you can tease me and then say no. I stepped back, adrenaline spiking. You need to leave. But Greg wasn't done. He ranted for 20 minutes straight, pacing my living room like a caged animal, alternating between begging, please, just let me lay in your bed, I'll be good, I promise, and lashing out, you're a cold bitch, you'll regret this. His face was red, his words spit-flecked. Finally, he stormed to the door, muttering curses. Relief washed over me, until I heard his truck engine roar to life. The man was about to drive 2 hours home, blackout drunk. I ran to the balcony, calling his name, begging him to stop. But Greg just flipped me off, slammed the truck into gear, and peeled out into the night like some demon on wheels. I stood there shaking, watching his taillights vanish, knowing I'd narrowly dodged a disaster. But the story didn't end there. The next day, he blew up my phone. Dozens of texts, swinging wildly between apology and rage. One read, I can't stop thinking about your lips. The next, you ruined my life. I should have never driven to you. Then, don't tell anyone about last night. They wouldn't understand our connection. I blocked him. A week later, a mutual friend, someone who'd introduced us online, messaged me. Hey, just checking, are you okay? Greg's been telling people you two hooked up and you broke his heart. Hooked up? Broke his heart? I nearly choked. I told her everything. She was horrified but not surprised. Apparently, Greg had a reputation for dramatic meltdowns, but no one warned me because he seemed to really like you. For months afterward, I lived with the creeping fear that his truck would roll back into my street at 2 a.m., that he'd bang on my door, slurring my name, demanding another chance. When you date online long enough, you learn to recognize certain archetypes. The gym selfie guys, the me and my fish guys, the crypto is my personality guys, and then there are the guys who seem normal, until you scratch the surface. I thought Alex was normal. At first. He was witty in text, not too overbearing, and we vibed over dumb memes about raccoons stealing pizza. He had this crooked smile in his pictures, the kind that felt both charming and mischievous. I imagined him as the kind of guy who would hold your hand across the table and make a sly joke about the couple next to you, something conspiratorial, intimate. We exchanged numbers after only a couple of days on the app. That was my first mistake. It started innocently, casual good mornings, a few flirty lines, the kind of build-up that makes your stomach fizz like soda. He said he wanted to take me to a rooftop bar downtown. I said yes, because I wanted something easy, something fun. But before we even got to the first date, the Real Alex revealed himself. It happened one Tuesday night. I went to bed around midnight, phone buzzing with one last sweet dreams text from him. Cute, right? I plugged my phone in, curled up, and drifted into dreams. When I woke up at 7 a.m., my phone was screaming. Notifications stacked like a digital avalanche, over 1,500 texts. My heart stopped. At first, I thought it was a glitch. Maybe my phone had duplicated messages. But no, each text was unique. A living, breathing conversation with himself. The first 50 were sweet. I miss you already. I can't wait to hold you. Do you think of me before you sleep? By message 100 they shifted. Why aren't you answering? Are you ignoring me? Wake up, baby, please, I need you. By message 200 the tone darkened. You think you're better than me? Don't make me beg. I know you're there. I can feel you. And then came the pictures. At first, they were harmless. Selfies of him shirtless in his bathroom mirror, flexing like a dollar store model. Then, photos of things he was making for me. A cardboard cutout of my name in bubble letters, a badly iced cake with our initials scrawled on it, a shoebox memory chest, even though we hadn't met. By message 700, the photos got darker. His face crying. His face red and sweaty. His face pressed to his phone screen as if he could kiss me through it. And finally, his face with lipstick smeared across his cheeks. Not his lipstick. Mine. A brand I had mentioned once in passing on text. Somehow he had gone out, bought it, and smeared it on. I dropped the phone, heart thudding. I'd been asleep for 7 hours. In those 7 hours, this man had lived an entire psychodrama alone, acting like I was a participant. Then the phone buzzed again. A new message. Finally awake? I've been waiting, my love. I nearly screamed. I didn't answer. Not right away. I scrolling endlessly, my thumb trembling as I skimmed through his mania. He'd written poems. Bad ones. One read. You are the moon / I am the tide / I'll crash into you / until you can't hide. Another. Breath by breath / word by word / if you don't answer / you'll still be heard. I felt sick. Finally I typed, Alex. What the hell is this? He responded in seconds, like he'd been crouched over the phone waiting. It's love, baby. Pure love. I couldn't stop thinking of you. I couldn't sleep. Did you read everything? Did you feel it? I feel freaked out, I wrote back. A pause. Then, don't say that. Don't ruin this. We're special. You're mine. Something inside me snapped cold. No, we've never even met. This is not normal. And then he called me. Over and over. I declined. He called again. I declined. He called 20 times in a row, and when I blocked him, he switched to video calls through social apps. My phone was a hostage. I sat on the edge of my bed, shaking, realizing this man had built an entire relationship in his head, brick by brick, while I was unconscious. But it didn't stop there. The next night, I got a group text. At first, I didn't understand. It said, "Hey baby, anything tonight?" Winky face. I froze. Baby. That was his word. Then the replies came in. Who is this? Wrong number. Dude, stop mass texting women. It hit me. He was sending the same message to multiple women at once, but forgot to hide the group chat function. We could all see each other. My stomach twisted as I scrolled. There were at least a dozen of us. All women. One brave soul replied, "This isn't a mass text LOL?" He responded, "Nope. Just for you, winky face." I snapped a screenshot of the entire group chat and sent it. His reply, "Oh LOL. You caught me." One of the other women typed, "We can all read this. You're sick." He left the chat. I thought that would be the end. But Alex wasn't done. 2 nights later, I woke at 3 a.m. to a sound outside my window. My blinds rattled. Heart pounding, I peeked out. For a moment, I saw nothing. Then movement. A figure ducking into the shadows. I grabbed my phone, trembling. I wanted to believe it was my imagination. But then a text came in. Nice pajamas. I froze, every hair on my body lifting. He knew where I lived. I called the police. By the time they arrived, he was gone. They told me to block him, report him on the apps, change my locks, maybe even crash with a friend. For weeks, I jumped at every sound. Every buzz of my phone sent me into panic. I deleted dating apps. I deleted half my social media. But every now and then, a message sneaks through from an unknown number. Short. Creepy. Familiar. Wake up, baby. I miss you. I always thought blind dates were for the desperate. But when my best friend insisted I get out of my hermit shell and meet someone new, I caved. She set me up with a girl named Isla. New in town, adventurous, loves to laugh. I pictured someone breezy, easygoing. Instead, what I got was the kind of night that made me question if I should ever let anyone set me up again. The first red flag hit before we even ordered drinks. Isla was already drunk when she showed up. Not tipsy, not, I had a glass of wine to loosen up drunk. I mean full-blown stumbling, slurring, loud laugh drunk. She wobbled into the restaurant lobby, kissed me on the cheek a little too wetly, and announced, "You're much hotter than the last guy." Heads turned. The hostess smirked. I wanted to melt into the floor. We sat down, and Isla immediately flagged the waiter for tequila shots. He looked at me, silently asking if this was a good idea. I gave the tiniest shrug. Maybe 2 shots would calm her down. Wrong. 2 shots turned into 6 in less than 20 minutes. She pounded them like water, then started poking at my steak tartare with her finger, licking it and moaning theatrically. "God, raw meat gets me so hot," she whispered, loud enough for the table next to us to hear. An elderly couple actually got up and left. I tried to redirect. "So, how long have you lived here?" 2 weeks, she slurred, then leaned across the table. "And I already know I want to stay in your bed." I coughed so hard I nearly choked on my drink. By the end of dinner, Isla was glassy-eyed and swaying. Against my better judgment, I offered her a ride home. She grinned, climbed into my car, and within 5 minutes, leaned out the window and puked down the side of my door. The sound was horrifying, wet, chunky, endless. The smell hit a second later, like a mix of tequila, bile, and the half-chewed onions from her fajitas. I pulled over, gagging. "Jesus, Isla, you okay?" She wiped her mouth with her sleeve and giggled. "Oops. Guess that's your car wash bill." I should have taken her home right then. Instead, she pouted when I suggested it, insisting she was fine, just tipsy, and begged me to let her crash at my place. Against every instinct, I said yes. We stumbled into my apartment around midnight. Isla immediately kicked off her heels, stripped down to just her bra and skirt, and collapsed on my couch. I gave her a blanket, handed her some water, and said, "Sleep it off. I'll take you home in the morning." That should have been the end. But at 4 a.m., I woke to a blood-curdling scream. I shot out of bed, heart hammering, and found Isla standing in the dark living room, wild-eyed, clutching the lamp from my side table. "Where am I? Who are you?" she shrieked, brandishing the lamp like a weapon. "It's me. It's Alex. Your date. You fell asleep here, remember?" She squinted at me, pupils blown wide, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "You kidnapped me, didn't you? You drugged me." Before I could answer, she hurled the lamp across the room. It smashed against the wall, exploding into shards. "Isla, calm down," I shouted, trying not to panic. But she wasn't done. She stormed toward me, fists clenched, then tripped over the coffee table and went sprawling. She lay on the rug, panting, then suddenly burst into tears. "I'm so alone," she sobbed. "Nobody loves me. Do you love me?" I stood there in my boxers, frozen. We just met." "Say it," she wailed, crawling toward me. "Say you love me." I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I gently guided her back to the couch, sat her down, and tried to calm her. She clutched my arm like a lifeline, whispering incoherently about her ex, her parents, a dog she once had that died. Eventually, she passed out again, snoring loudly, sprawled half-naked across my couch. I sat awake until sunrise, too afraid she'd wake up and throw something else. By 8 a.m., I was done. I nudged her awake, offered coffee, and said I'd drive her home. She mumbled something, pulled her skirt back on, and stumbled into my car without a word. The ride was silent until we got to her street. She suddenly turned, smiled sweetly, and said, "Last night was fun. Let's do it again." I nearly swerved off the road. "Do it again?" "Yeah," she said casually, as if she hadn't puked in my car, smashed my lamp, and accused me of kidnapping her. "You're cute. You'll call me, right?" I dropped her off and sped away like the devil was chasing me. 2 hours later, she texted, "I left my panties under your couch, winky face, keep them warm for me." I blocked her. But for weeks afterward, I kept finding tiny reminders of her. A single earring wedged between the cushions. A fake eyelash stuck to my bathroom mirror. A lipstick smear on one of my pillowcases. Like she'd marked my apartment, little breadcrumbs of chaos, just in case I ever forgot her. And sometimes, when I'm falling asleep, I swear I can still hear her scream echoing in my ears. That raw, feral sound of someone who didn't know where they were, who they were with, or what they might do next. I still haven't replaced the lamp. Some part of me thinks the empty space in the corner is a warning. A reminder, never again. I should have known the night was doomed when she showed up already sweating under her leather jacket, eyeliner running like a raccoon who'd sprinted through a thunderstorm. Her name was Ravenna. At least, that's what she called herself online. In her pictures, she looked like a gothic dream. Slim, pouty lips, eyes that seemed to dare you to touch her. In person, let's just say the camera had been kind. Too kind. She was bigger, older looking, and already vibrating like a live wire before we'd even ordered drinks. "Babe," she shrieked, throwing herself onto me in the restaurant lobby. "You don't even know what a lucky bastard you are. I turned down 2 offers to party tonight. Real ones. Like after party at the W Hotel level. Thanks for choosing me," I muttered, peeling her off me as she dug her nails into my shoulder like a hawk grabbing prey. We sat down, and within 5 minutes, she excused herself to the bathroom. "Just freshening up," she winked. She was gone for 20. When she came back, her nose was red, pupils blown wide, and she was talking at warp speed. "You're hot, you're so hot, I could eat you," she rambled, stabbing her straw into her vodka soda like she was drilling for oil. "You like rock? You like Sabbath? My dad's basically Ozzy. No, for real, my dad could have been Ozzy. My mom fucked Ozzy. Or maybe she didn't, I don't know, but I'm basically Ozzy Osbourne's daughter. People tell me that. People see me and they know." I laughed nervously, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Dinner was chaos. She ordered 3 entrees just to try, scarfed bites off each plate like a starving raccoon, then wandered off to the bathroom again. The waiter shot me a look like, "Buddy, you good?" I wasn't. By the 3rd trip to the bathroom, I was convinced she had a Coke stash tucked into her bra. She'd vanish for 15 minutes, then return louder, sweatier, and more unhinged. At one point, she leaned across the table and whispered, "You ever been drugged?" "Excuse me?" Her grin was manic. Like, ever had your drink spiked? It's crazy, right? 1 minute you're normal, next minute, bam, you're in another dimension. I froze. My beer was sitting right in front of me, untouched since she'd gone to the bathroom. And I swear to God, the foam looked disturbed. "Did you?" She giggled, biting her lip. "Don't worry. It's just a little bump. You'll loosen up." I pushed the beer away, heart thundering. "What the hell, Ravenna? Did you seriously put something in my drink?" She shrugged like it was nothing. "Relax, baby. It's love powder. Now we're bonded. Forever." I wanted to leave right then, but she clutched my wrist with surprising strength. "Don't you dare ghost me. Don't you fucking dare. Guys ghost me, and it never ends well for them." The rest of the night blurred into a fever dream. She talked nonstop about celebrities she claimed she knew, Jack Black, Gene Simmons, some tattoo artist from Miami Inc. She said she'd had threesomes with half of them. At one point, she tried to light a candle on our table with a cigarette lighter and nearly set her sleeve on fire. By the time I got her outside, she was swaying on her heels, still babbling about how she was destined to marry me. "We're a power couple. You're gonna manage my band. I'm starting a band. I'm lead singer. You'll love it." I shoved her into a cab and gave the driver her address, which she slurred out in broken fragments. I thought that was the last I'd see of her. I was wrong. 3 days later, my phone rang at 2 a.m. It was her. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got me. "You bastard," she sobbed. "You killed my baby." I sat up in bed, cold sweat prickling my neck. "What are you talking about? You slipped something in my drink, you asshole." I miscarried. "It's your fault." "What the fuck?" I shouted. "We didn't even sleep together." She wailed louder. "Don't lie. Don't gaslight me. I can feel it in my womb. You cursed me. You poisoned me. You destroyed my child." I hung up, shaking, but the voicemail started pouring in. Screaming, crying, whispering. 1 minute she begged me to marry her. The next she threatened to burn down my apartment. I blocked her, of course, but she found me on Instagram, then Snapchat, then LinkedIn. I didn't even know people stalked on LinkedIn, but there she was, messaging me at 4 a.m. "You'll never escape your destiny, babe. Ozzy's blood runs through me, and now it runs through you." The final straw was the package. A plain box on my doorstep, no return address. Inside, a broken guitar pick, a lock of dark hair, and a napkin with the words "Forever or Never" scrawled in eyeliner. That was when I changed my number, deleted half my socials, and started screening every unknown number like it was a call from hell itself. Sometimes, when I pass by that restaurant, I wonder if Ravenna is still out there, haunting some other poor bastard's dinner date, vanishing into bathrooms and coming back with powder still on her nose. And sometimes, when my phone buzzes in the dead of night, I swear I still hear her voice echoing in my head. "You're mine, baby. Forever. Forever. Forever." know how they say long distance builds anticipation? I used to believe that. I used to think the longer you text someone, the stronger the connection. That's what kept me hooked with Leora. We'd been talking for months, late night calls, flirty video chats, paragraphs that felt like poetry at the time. She was from the States, I was in Denmark, and the fantasy we spun together felt almost cinematic. She kept saying she'd come visit, and one day she did. That's when the nightmare began. I was at the airport, scanning the crowd with my nervous excitement buzzing like static in my veins. I half expected some kind of movie moment. Her walking through the gate in slow motion, hair shining, suitcase rolling behind her, the two of us running toward each other like idiots in a rom-com. Instead, I got Leora. The first shock hit immediately. She wasn't the age she'd claimed. She had told me she was 21. She looked maybe 16, 17 if I was being generous. Tiny frame, cheap makeup caked on like plaster, hair fried from too much bleach. My stomach dropped, but she spotted me and came bounding over with a squeal. "Finally," she said, throwing her arms around me like we'd known each other forever. Her breath smelled like bubblegum and vodka. I tried to play it cool, telling myself maybe I was wrong, maybe she just looked young. But the doubt gnawed at me as we drove back to my apartment. The second shock came when she opened her suitcase in my living room. I'd expected clothes, toiletries, maybe a book. Instead, it was stuffed with snacks, bags of chips, candy bars, energy drinks. Not a single change of underwear in sight. "This is all I need," she said, grinning like it was charming. The next 3 days were chaos. She trashed my apartment within hours. Empty cans, chip crumbs, sticky fingerprints on every surface. She spilled soda on my rug and didn't even try to clean it up. She left wet towels on my bed. And when she showered, she somehow managed to flood the bathroom, water pouring out under the door, soaking the hallway carpet. She came out wrapped in my towel like nothing happened, saying, "Oops, your pipes are weird." I tried being polite. I tried suggesting we go out, maybe see the city, grab dinner. But she refused. "Why would I waste money when you can cook?" she said, even though I'd never once claimed to be a good cook. And when we did step outside, she was a whirlwind of embarrassment. She talked loudly in public, snapping at strangers, making a scene if anyone looked at her twice. At one cafe, she yelled at the barista for not having pumpkin spice lattes in Denmark. People stared. I wanted to melt into the floor. But the worst was the lying. It started small. She told me she'd studied at Yale, but couldn't name a single professor or class. She claimed she spoke fluent French, then mispronounced bonjour. She bragged about modeling, but when I asked to see her portfolio, she laughed it off. And then the bomb dropped, her age. We were sitting in my living room, awkward silence filling the space while she scrolled TikTok. Out of nowhere, she said, "You won't care if I'm younger than I said, right?" My stomach twisted. "How much younger?" She bit her lip, then giggled. 16. 16. I froze. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to throw her out right then and there. But she was in my apartment, in a foreign country, with no backup plan. I didn't even know if she had money for a hotel. And the thought of headlines, "Local man abandons American teen at airport," kept me paralyzed. So I tried to manage. Keep my distance. Get through the visit without anything blowing up. But Leora wasn't the type to be managed. She became clingier by the hour. If I stepped into another room, she'd follow. If I left my phone unattended, she'd grab it, scrolling through my messages with jealous fury. When I suggested she cut her trip short, she flipped out, screaming, crying, hurling insults. That night, she called me 197 times. I woke up to 337 missed calls total. My phone screen was cracked from buzzing off the nightstand. Each voicemail was more unhinged than the last, sobbing, screaming, threats to hurt herself if I didn't answer. At 3 a.m., she stood outside my bedroom door, pounding on it, wailing like something out of a horror movie. I locked it and sat in bed shaking, wondering how the hell I'd ended up here. The final straw came on day 4. She insisted on cooking breakfast to make up for everything. Against my better judgment, I let her. 10 minutes later, smoke filled the kitchen. She'd tried to fry eggs, without oil, without turning on the vent, and apparently without realizing plastic spatulas melt if you leave them in the pan. The smell lingered for weeks. I drove her to the airport in silence, praying she'd just get on her flight and vanish from my life. At the gate, she kissed me hard on the mouth, tongue and all, while people stared. Then she whispered, "Don't forget me, or I'll find you again." And then she was gone. I went home, sat on my ruined couch, and laughed until I cried. I wasn't laughing because it was funny. I was laughing because I'd survived. To this day, my bathroom carpet still smells faintly of mildew. And sometimes, late at night, I swear I hear my phone buzzing phantom calls, like Leora's still out there, dialing my number over and over, waiting for me to pick up. They say a man in uniform is irresistible. I guess that's why I ignored the first red flags with Marcus. Navy guy, shaved head, tight muscles, and that cocky grin that screamed, "I've broken more hearts than promises." He slid into my messages with a confidence that felt reckless and sexy at the same time. The first thing he bragged about: his Camaro. Bright yellow custom exhaust, pulls every head when I drive down the street. I rolled my eyes at the cliché, but still agreed to meet him. Maybe I was shallow. Maybe I wanted the cliché. Maybe I just liked the idea of climbing into a sports car and speeding away from my boring Tuesday life. He pulled up outside my apartment right on time, revving the engine so loud that my neighbors peeked out their blinds. The car was neon yellow, glossy as a banana on steroids. Marcus leaned out the window wearing aviators and a smirk. "Hop in, gorgeous," he said, and I swear I almost laughed out loud. It felt like a bad movie line, but I got in anyway. The leather seats were hot against my thighs. He had the AC blasting cold enough to make goosebumps rise on my skin, and the smell of cologne so strong it could have been used to fumigate an apartment. He immediately launched into Navy stories, deployments, battles, bar fights, women he'd tamed. Half of it sounded made up. The other half sounded like red flags flapping in the wind. But God help me, I was still entertained. We hadn't even made it 2 blocks when it happened. Marcus whipped the Camaro into a parking lot, gunning it a little too fast. The car next to us, a modest silver sedan, scraped against his bumper with the most sickening nails-on-chalkboard screech. I gasped. "Marcus, you hit that car." He didn't even blink. He checked his mirror, shrugged, and said, "Guess we should park somewhere else." Then he peeled out, tires squealing, as if committing a hit and run was as casual as changing lanes. My jaw dropped. "Are you serious? You just damaged someone's car." He smirked, one hand on the wheel, the other draped over my thigh like nothing happened. "Relax, babe. Insurance is a scam anyway." I froze under his hand, too stunned to even slap it away. My date was a criminal, and we hadn't even made it to the restaurant. We ended up at some overpriced steakhouse, the kind with velvet booths and chandeliers shaped like antlers. Marcus strutted inside like he owned the place. He wore his uniform jacket even though it was hot, chest puffed like a peacock, waiting for people to notice. And they did, every head turned. At first, I thought he'd settle down once we sat. I was wrong. Marcus ordered 3 drinks at once, whiskey neat, a gin and tonic, and some ridiculous flaming cocktail he called for style. He downed them like water. By the time the appetizers came, he was loud enough that the waiter winced every time he approached. But worse than his volume was his fixation on me. "You ever been with a Navy man before?" he asked, leaning across the table, so close I could smell the whiskey on his breath. I shook my head, trying to laugh it off. "Can't say I have." "You should. Best stamina in the world. Months at sea, nothing but discipline. When I get home, I can go all night." He winked, his tongue darting across his teeth. My cheeks burned. I shifted uncomfortably in my seat, aware of the couple next to us staring. I tried to change the subject, asked him about his favorite places he'd traveled. But he wouldn't let go of the sex talk. "You know what's better than seeing the world? Taking someone for a ride so hard she forgets what planet she's on." He licked his lips again, like a cartoon wolf. "And baby, I bet you'd scream loud enough to drown out the ocean." The waiter set down our steaks, and I wished the plate would burst into flames so I could disappear in the smoke. But the universe wasn't done with me. Halfway through dinner, Marcus pulled out his phone. He flipped it around to show me his screen. There were nudes. Dozens of them. Women in all shapes and poses, none of them me. "Check it out," he said proudly. "Souvenirs. Proof I've still got it." I nearly choked on my drink. "You're showing me your trophies? On a first date?" He grinned. "Don't be jealous. You'll be in the album next." I wanted to crawl under the table. Instead, I excused myself to the bathroom, splashing water on my face, staring at my reflection like, why am I still here? When I returned, Marcus had ordered dessert for himself. He sat back with a giant slice of chocolate cake, grinning smugly, fork stabbing at the icing. "You were gone a while," he said. "I was starting to think you ditched me. Would have been a shame. Nobody ditches me." That line stuck with me. Nobody ditches me. It sounded less like confidence and more like a threat. The ride home was worse. He insisted on driving me back, even though I offered to grab an Uber. He revved the Camaro like it was foreplay, weaving through traffic, one hand still draped across my thigh as if claiming me like property. I stared straight ahead, heart hammering every time he blew through a yellow light. When we pulled up to my apartment, I tried to bolt, but Marcus grabbed my wrist. "Don't I get a goodnight kiss?" he asked, smirk crooked, eyes glassy with booze. I hesitated. Every cell in my body screamed no. But his grip was iron, and I felt trapped. So I gave him the quickest, driest peck on the cheek and pulled away. He laughed, shaking his head. "You're shy. I like that. Don't worry, next time I'll break you in." Next time. I slammed the door shut, ran upstairs, and locked every bolt I had. I spent the night replaying the screech of metal against metal, his hand on my thigh, his phone full of women's bodies, his voice saying, "Nobody ditches me." The next morning, he texted me. "Had fun. Same time next week." Winky face. I blocked his number. 2 days later, he messaged me from a different one. Then another. Then another. He even left a note under my windshield wiper. "Don't play hard to get." That's when the real fear set in. I thought about reporting him for the hit and run. I thought about telling the Navy. But part of me worried, what if he found out it was me? He knew where I lived. He had that Camaro. He had that look in his eyes. For weeks, I jumped every time I heard an engine rev outside my apartment. And here's the kicker. Months later, I was walking home from the train station when I saw it. The yellow Camaro, parked crooked on the side of the road. The bumper still scraped, scarred from the hit and run. Marcus wasn't in the driver's seat. But a girl was. A girl who looked about 18. She was laughing, snapping selfies, Marcus's arm draped casually across her shoulders. I walked faster, heart pounding, realizing with sickening clarity. This was his routine. The Camaro was his bait. And I had just been one catch in a long, ugly line. You ever wake up to your phone buzzing like it's possessed? Not just one buzz, not even 10. I mean the kind of buzzing where you think the phone's trying to crawl off your nightstand and escape because it can't handle the pressure anymore. That was me, one Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. bleary-eyed, hair like a rat's nest, mascara smudged from the night before. I reached for my phone expecting maybe an email, maybe a drunk text from a friend, maybe even a notification about some package delivery. Instead, 1,537 unread texts. From a man I had been speaking to for exactly 3 days. Let me back up. His name was Brennan. We'd matched on a dating app, one of those where people pretend they read books and love hiking, when in reality they're on the couch double-fisting Doritos and Red Bull. His profile said law student, loves cats, hopeless romantic. Cute enough. In his photos he wore glasses, smiled in that slightly dorky way, had a cat curled in his lap. Safe. Normal. Boring maybe, but normal. Our first few chats were harmless, where we grew up, favorite movies, his obsession with peanut butter M&Ms. He seemed fine. A little intense, maybe. He texted fast, with too many exclamation points, but I figured, hey, better than someone who takes 4 days to reply with K. By day 3, he asked if we could meet for coffee. I said sure. Nothing fancy, just a Saturday morning thing. Casual. I wasn't expecting sparks, just caffeine and conversation. But Friday night, the buzzing started. At first it was sweet. "Hey, just wanted to say I'm excited to see you tomorrow." Smiley face, cute. Then, I can already feel a connection. A little much, but fine. Then came the avalanche. "I can't sleep, I keep thinking about your smile. Do you think soulmates recognize each other immediately? I bet your hair smells amazing. What shampoo do you use? If we kiss tomorrow, will you let me hold your face? I think it would be cinematic. I can hear your laugh in my head, and I haven't even heard it yet. Isn't that wild? That's fate." By midnight, I had 200 messages. By 2 a.m., 600. By the time I dozed off, the phone was buzzing so constantly I shoved it under a pillow just to muffle the madness. When I woke up, I saw the number. 1,537. I scrolled in horror. He had sent photos. Not of himself. Not even dirty ones. No worse. Photos of things he had been making for me. At 3:04 a.m., a lopsided paper heart with my name scrawled across it. At 3:45, a Lego tower. Our castle. At 4:12, pancakes shaped like the letter of my first name. At 5:17, a poorly drawn sketch of me, except I was naked, and he'd given me cartoonishly huge boobs like anime porn. The captions made it worse. Do you like your castle, my queen? When I lick the syrup off the pancakes, I imagine it's your skin. This is how I dream of you. I couldn't help myself. Don't be mad. I felt my stomach turn. And then the voicemails. Oh God, the voicemails. The first was just heavy breathing, like Darth Vader had asthma. The second was him whispering, wake up. Please wake up. I miss you. I miss you so much. I need to hear your voice. We hadn't even had our first date. By the seventh voicemail, he was singing. Not well. Off-key croaky, something that was supposed to be Can't Help Falling in Love, but sounded more like a funeral dirge. At one point, he moaned my name in between lyrics, like it was a remix. I sat there, frozen, coffee mug shaking in my hands. My roommate wandered into the kitchen, saw my expression, and asked what was wrong. I wordlessly shoved the phone at her. She scrolled, jaw dropping. Oh, my God. He's insane, she whispered. You have to block him. But part of me hesitated. Maybe he was drunk? Hi. Lonely? Was this dangerous or just pathetic? My phone buzzed again. Another text. Did I scare you? Please don't be scared. Please don't leave. Please don't ghost me. I love you. I love you already. I know that's fast, but I can't help it. I can't breathe without you. I blocked him. Finally. But blocking only works if the person doesn't know where you live. Saturday morning, the day of our supposed coffee date, there was a knock at my door. I froze. My roommate mouthed, "Don't answer it." The knocking got louder. Then a voice. It's me. Don't ignore fate. I brought you breakfast. Pancakes. Your favorite. My blood ran cold. I peeked through the peephole. Sure enough, there he was. Brennan. Hoodie, messy hair, a paper bag in his hands. He looked disheveled, wild-eyed, like he hadn't slept. Please, he begged. I know you're in there. I can feel your aura. Don't make me eat these pancakes alone. Don't make me beg in front of your neighbors. The neighbors were already peeking out of doors. Someone muttered, yikes. My roommate called the building manager. I hissed through the door, go home, Brennan. He pressed his forehead against the door like some kind of tragic movie hero. I can't. I'm already home. You're my home. That was it. Building security came, escorted him out, threatened to call the cops if he came back. He wailed like a toddler being denied candy, but eventually left. I thought it was over. But the text started again, this time from new numbers. Burner phones, maybe? Friends' phones? He'd write things like, "It's me, Brennan. You can't block destiny." Or, "I'm outside your window." Or worst of all, "I left something for you. Check under your doormat." I didn't check. My roommate did. It was another paper heart. Sloppy handwriting. Stained with something dark. I don't even want to guess what. The police got involved. They told me to document everything, keep records, file a restraining order if it escalated. Escalated? I was already living in a Lifetime movie. The last straw came a week later. I was in bed, drifting off when my phone buzzed. I glanced at it out of habit. It was a video. I pressed play, thinking maybe it was spam. It was him, sitting shirtless in his messy bedroom, candles flickering behind him. He stared straight into the camera, unblinking. Then slowly he raised a fork. On the fork was a pancake. He whispered my name, over and over, as he licked the syrup off it. Then he whispered, forever. I didn't sleep that night. I don't think I'll ever eat pancakes again. When you spend months talking to someone online, you start to build this little fantasy in your head. You imagine the way they smell, the way their eyes linger when you make a joke, the exact moment when you both lean in and kiss, like something out of a Netflix rom-com. That's how it was with Marlo. Marlo was witty over text, smooth even, always quick with a joke or some sarcastic observation that made me laugh out loud at my desk at work. Her profile picture showed a petite woman in a vintage sundress, sipping wine, hair shining like something out of a shampoo ad. She told me she loved indie films, poetry, and spontaneous adventures. She also claimed she cooked a mean carbonara. It all painted this picture of someone quirky, maybe a little mysterious, but definitely someone I wanted to meet. We texted for 3 solid months. Every day, without fail. We talked about everything, dreams, fears, the first time she ever got drunk, the scar on her knee from falling off a bike when she was 7. I felt like I already knew her better than half my friends. So when she suggested flying out to see me, I thought, why not? 3 months of texting was practically a relationship in modern terms. This was just the natural next step. I should have known things were off the second I met her at the airport. In her pictures, Marlo had been slim, glowing, almost delicate. The woman who came off that plane was not the woman I recognized. She was heavier, much heavier, her face rounder, her skin oily like she'd been marinating in airplane grease for hours. Her sundress had been replaced by a stretched-out hoodie with a suspicious stain near the zipper. And when she smiled, there was something missing. Not her teeth, they were all there, though yellowed, but the energy. The spark I thought I knew so well. Still, I plastered on my polite smile. I mean, what else do you do when someone's flown across the country to see you? Hugging her felt like pressing myself into a beanbag chair that smelled faintly of onions. You look different, was all I managed. She giggled. Yeah, I don't really update my profile much. But hey, this is me. Authentic, right? Right. Authentic. That word was about to haunt me. We drove back to my place. I tried making conversation, but every response was flat, like she was reading from a script. I asked about her flight, she said long. I asked if she was hungry, she said, not really. I asked what she wanted to do first, she shrugged. By the time we got to my apartment, I felt like I was babysitting a sulky teenager instead of hosting a long-awaited romantic partner. She dropped her bag on the floor, kicked off her sneakers, and immediately sprawled on my couch. Shoes still on, mind you. So, I said, desperate to fill the silence. Want to grab dinner somewhere? Maybe that Italian place I told you about. She yawned. Nah, let's just order pizza. So we did. And then came the most excruciating 3 days of my adult life. Marlo was, to put it bluntly, a huge drag. She didn't want to go anywhere. She didn't want to see the city, or try new restaurants, or meet any of my friends. She didn't even want to walk around the block. All she wanted was to sit on my couch, eat junk food, and binge reality TV. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a lazy day. But when someone flies across the country to see you, you expect at least one moment of magic. Instead, I got hours of her farting into my couch cushions and sighing whenever I suggested something that required standing upright. The conversations were worse. Over text, she'd been so witty, so alive. In person, every word felt like pulling teeth. I'd ask, so what movies have you seen lately? She'd shrug. I dunno. Whatever's on Netflix. I'd ask, what's your favorite book? She'd mumble, don't really read. When I mentioned her profile, saying she loved poetry, she laughed. Oh yeah, I just put that to sound smart. I felt my stomach sink. Months of carefully curated texts, all undone in a matter of hours. But here's where it slid from boring to creepy. On the second night, I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of whispering. My apartment was dark, except for the glow of the TV. Marlo was still on the couch, sitting cross-legged, talking softly. At first I thought she was on the phone, but when I crept closer, I realized she wasn't holding anything. No phone, no remote. She was whispering to the pizza box. Her hands stroked the greasy cardboard like it was a pet. You're the only one who understands me, she murmured. Not like him. He's judging me. But you're always here. Always warm. I backed away slowly, heart hammering. Maybe she was sleep-talking. Maybe. The next morning, I asked her about it. She denied everything. You must have been dreaming, she said, with that same flat shrug. I tried to cut the visit short, but she guilt-tripped me. I spent all this money to come here. Don't you at least want to try? You're acting like you don't care. So I endured. Day 3, she flooded my bathroom. I don't even know how. She claimed she was taking a shower, but when I went in afterward, water was everywhere, floor, walls, even the ceiling. My bath mat was floating. She just laughed and said, "Guess I like it steamy." That night, she demanded to sleep in my bed. I hesitated, but she pouted until I caved. It was like trying to sleep next to a grizzly bear with restless leg syndrome. She hogged the blankets, snored like a chainsaw, and at one point muttered pizza while smacking her lips in her sleep. The final straw came on the last morning. I woke up to find her rummaging through my fridge in just her oversized hoodie and underwear. She bent over, fully exposing herself, and said, "You don't mind, do you? We're basically a couple now. NSFW? Maybe in theory. In reality, it was the least sexy thing I'd ever seen." By the time she left, I wasn't even sad. I was counting the minutes until the airport swallowed her whole. She hugged me goodbye, pressing me into that onion-scented beanbag body again, and whispered, "I'll be back. Next time, I'll stay longer." Longer? God help me. The texts after she left were just as flat as her presence had been. Had a great time. Miss you already. Don't forget about me. I replied politely but distantly, hoping she'd take the hint. She didn't. A week later, she sent me a photo of a pizza box with the words, "Our love," scrawled on it in Sharpie. I blocked her. To this day, I can't order pizza without thinking of her whispering sweet nothings to a greasy cardboard box at 3 in the morning. You ever swipe right in a foreign country thinking, at worst, I'll get a free meal and a weird story out of it? That was exactly my mindset the night I met Tiras in Bangkok. His profile picture was shirtless, leaning against a tuk-tuk, with tattoos spiraling down his arm and a smile so wide it looked reckless. He listed his job as entrepreneur, which usually means drug dealer or failed DJ, but I was jet-lagged, horny, and already tired of temple tours. He messaged first, "You like spicy food?" I should have taken the warning. We agreed to meet in Chinatown at night, because apparently Bangkok only starts breathing properly after dark. I arrived in a flimsy black dress that kept riding up, already slick with sweat, before I'd even spotted him. Tiras showed up in sandals and a silk shirt with 3 too many buttons undone, like he'd been born in a nightclub. He hugged me right away, pulling me against skin sticky with humidity, and whispered, "Tonight we eat like gods." Street vendors lined the road in every direction. Smoke rose from grills. Prawns the size of my hand curled on skewers. Noodles sizzled in iron woks. The air was garlic, fish sauce, chili, and gasoline from the scooters weaving between tourists. My stomach growled. His hand found the small of my back, guiding me. "First test," he said. "Scorpion or cricket?" I laughed, thinking he was joking, until he handed me a skewer with a glossy, blackened scorpion. Its claws still looked sharp. "Eat with me," he said, crunching the tail off his. "Good for stamina." He winked. The crowd jostled, lights blinking above, people shouting prices. I told myself, new experiences, right? I closed my eyes and bit down. The crunch exploded, bitter and oily like burned nuts and regret. Tiras clapped and kissed me hard before I could even swallow. His tongue shoved in, tasting like insect ash and cheap beer. People around us cheered, as if it were a performance. "Next," he said, tugging me along. He bought bowls of noodles swimming in red broth so viciously spicy, I thought my lips would peel off. My eyes watered, nose running, makeup smearing down my face. Tiras slurped his effortlessly, sweat dripping down his jaw, and moaned loud enough to make the vendor giggle. I choked, snot dripping, while he leaned over and whispered, "Spice is good for the blood." And other things. His hand slid down my thigh under the table until I slapped it away, mostly because the plastic stool creaked under us, and I didn't want to die mid-grope. But the real disaster started after the third stall. We'd had grilled squid, skewered pork, something unidentifiable wrapped in banana leaves, and a sticky mango dessert that left my fingers shining. I should have stopped drinking the strange shots he kept buying, tiny glasses of homemade rice liquor that burned like fire. But no, I matched him sip for sip, and by the time we hit the 4th alley, the world was tilting pleasantly sideways. That's when Tiras decided to impress me with his connections. He led me behind a row of stalls, through a door that looked like a freezer entrance, and suddenly we were in a hidden bar. Red lights glowed dimly. Ceiling fans turned slow as drunk sex. Every table was filled with people, tourists, locals, expats, smoking and laughing over drinks. On the tiny stage in the corner, a woman in sequins was doing a sultry karaoke version of Britney Spears. "This is real Bangkok," Tiras said, ordering us shots without asking. He pressed one into my hand, clinked his glass against mine, and downed it. That's when my stomach made a sound. Not a cute grumble. A warning growl, like an animal ready to attack. I laughed nervously. "I think the scorpion's fighting back." Tiras grinned. "Let him. Stronger after battle." Then he reached under the table and squeezed my thigh again, sliding higher this time. The liquor had softened me, and the heat in my body wasn't just from Chili's anymore. His hand was rough, insistent, and I leaned closer, kissed him sloppily, our mouths tangling with spice and alcohol. For a moment I thought, maybe this date is salvaging itself. Maybe I'll let him take me back to wherever silk shirts go to die. Then my stomach lurched. Violently. I pulled back, clutching myself. Sweat poured down my neck. My vision swam. The bathroom was a single stall with a broken lock and no toilet paper, just a hose that sprayed like a fire hydrant. I won't describe the next 10 minutes in detail, except to say, every bad decision I'd made that night came flooding out of me in waves. When I finally staggered back, pale and trembling, Tiras was on stage. Singing. Shirt wide open now, chest gleaming, microphone clutched like he was headlining Coachella. He was serenading the room with some Thai pop ballad, and people were clapping along. He spotted me, pointed, and announced into the mic, "This woman, She eats scorpion, she eats fire, she survives. She is my queen tonight. The crowd hooped. I wanted the earth to open and swallow me. My stomach cramped again, sharp and sudden. I doubled over, stumbling toward him to tell him I had to leave. He caught me by the waist, lifted me onto the stage like some prize he'd won, and kissed me hard in front of everyone. The audience went wild, and then I threw up. On him. On the mic. On the sticky stage floor. The music cut. The room went silent except for the sound of liquid dripping. My vomit sparkled under the red lights, mango sticky rice mixed with liquor and chili, chunks glistening across his chest. Tira's froze, mouth open, mic still in his hand. Then slowly he laughed. He actually laughed, wiping his face with the back of his hand. She is wild, he shouted. The wildest. The crowd erupted in nervous applause. I wanted to die. Instead, I stumbled off stage, clutching my stomach, and bolted for the street. Tira's followed, still laughing, still sticky with my disaster. Wait, he called. It's okay, beautiful. You're strong. Tomorrow, we eat cobra blood soup. I kept walking. Past the neon, past the tuk-tuks, past the smell of fried garlic that suddenly made me want to cry. My stomach groaned again, and I realized this was going to be a long night in my hotel bathroom. Back in my room, curled on the cold tile floor, I replayed the night. The scorpion, the spice, the bathroom hose, the karaoke humiliation. And I realized something darkly funny. That man had probably taken dozens of tourists through the exact same ritual, each one thinking she was special, each one crunching through a scorpion while his hand slid up her thigh. And probably half of them ended the night the same way I did, sick, humiliated, sticky with regret. I never saw him again. Though 2 nights later, I swear I heard his voice outside my hotel window, singing, laughing, and calling someone else's queen. Bangkok has many temples, many stories. Mine was just one of the bad ones. I knew something was off the second the phone rang. Our coffee date was set for noon, but at 11:45, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. It was him, Damien, the lawyer I'd met on Match. His voice was slurry, jittery, like a man running on fumes. Hey, he said. Listen, I might be a little late. Got into a car accident. Nothing major. Just a fender bender. I'm fine. Totally fine. I just took a Xanax to calm down. It wasn't exactly the kind of predate pep talk I was expecting. Most guys text a polite, on my way. Not, I just medicated myself after a car crash. I hesitated. Do you still want to meet? Maybe you should rest. No, he rushed. I need this. I need you. Coffee will help. You'll help. I should have canceled right there. But I didn't. Curiosity, or stupidity won. 15 minutes later, he staggered into the cafe, tall, expensively dressed, but moving like his joints weren't properly screwed in. His pupils were blown wide, his grin manic. I half expected him to pull out cue cards labeled smile and look normal. Wow, he said, grabbing both my hands before I could even stand. You're even prettier than your pictures. God, you're radiant. Like a legal brief I want to frame. It was flattering for about 2 seconds, until I realized he was dead serious. He kissed my knuckles, lingered too long, then whispered, I feel like I've known you forever. We hadn't even ordered. I laughed nervously and slid my hands free. So, how long have you been practicing law? That should have been a safe question. But Damien's eyes glazed over, as if I'd reminded him of some tragic opera. Law's just my second act, he said dreamily. I was a surgeon first, hands steady as stone. I saved lives. But then malpractice suits, politics, insurance. I had to pivot. Law was safer, cleaner. He leaned forward, breath hot with mint gum and desperation. I'm good at both, you know. I could defend you, or operate on you. I choked on my latte. Operate on me? That was his idea of flirting. The conversation didn't improve. Every sentence was a love bomb grenade. You're my destiny. I've never felt this way before. I can see us living together, having matching briefcases. I tried to pivot, but he wasn't listening. His phone buzzed and he pulled it out, typing furiously. Seconds later, mine buzzed too. It was a text. From him. Sitting across from me. God, you're beautiful. I can't stop staring. I looked up. He winked, like this was some hot, secret code. Damien, I said carefully, you don't have to text me. I'm literally right here. He grinned, manic. I just like seeing your name on my screen. I checked the time. 30 minutes. I'd survived 30 minutes. I needed an exit strategy. I should get going soon, I said lightly. Early morning tomorrow. His smile faltered. Already? But we're just beginning. He leaned in closer, lowering his voice. I've been waiting for someone like you. Don't leave me hanging. Don't ghost me. I couldn't handle that. My stomach tightened. His tone had shifted, still soft but sharp underneath. Like a plea wrapped around a threat. I paid for my coffee, ignored his protests, and left with a quick wave. I thought that was it. A weird, drugged-up lawyer story to tell my friends. Then the text started. At first, they were sweet. I miss you already. I can't stop thinking about your smile. Harmless, if a little clingy. But by the time I woke up the next morning, my phone had exploded. Over 200 messages. Why aren't you answering? Are you okay? Did I scare you? I didn't mean to. Please respond. Please. I'll wait outside your building if I have to. At 3 a.m., he sent a picture of his car parked somewhere in the dark, captioned, I'd drive anywhere for you. By dawn, he was sending what looked like poems, or fragments of poems, about my hair, my voice, my soulful eyes that pierced through his law-scarred heart. Some stanzas were weirdly graphic, like, I'd cross-examine every inch of your skin in chambers. By mid-morning, the count had risen to nearly 500 texts. By lunch, 800. By nightfall, over 1,000. It was like watching someone unravel in real time, all through my phone screen. The messages swung from love-drunk to paranoid. You're ignoring me because you're with another man, aren't you? Who is he? 2 minutes later, forget that. I trust you. I love you. Don't leave me. At one point, he sent a video of himself shirtless, pounding his chest like some deranged gorilla, yelling, This heart beats for you, Kira. My name isn't even Kira. I blocked him. My hands were shaking, but I blocked him. The silence that followed was blessed. I thought it was over. Until 3 days later, when a thick envelope arrived in my mailbox. Inside, 20 pages of handwritten letters, his scrawl jagged and uneven. He'd drawn stick figures of us holding hands, surrounded by hearts and dollar signs. The last page just said, Answer me or I'll find another way. That was enough. I called the police. Nothing came of it. They said he hadn't technically threatened me, and besides, he hadn't actually done anything physical. But I moved apartments 2 months later. I don't usually go for school principals. Too buttoned up, too stiff, too much of that. I'm used to running an assembly energy. But when I met Roland at a fundraiser, he was charming in that awkward, nerdy way. He told me he'd been widowed early, that he loved classic rock, and that he'd always wanted someone who could help him loosen his tie. It was cheesy, but it worked. Our first 2 dates were fine. Safe dinners, safe wine, lots of talk about the school board and his challenging students. I wasn't swooning, but he seemed solid, stable. I figured a stable man might be exactly what I needed after a string of chaos junkies. By the 3rd date, he wanted to take me shopping. You deserve something nice, he said, puffing out his chest like he was auditioning to be a sugar daddy. I laughed it off, but he was insistent. So there we were, standing in the middle of this tacky mall boutique, fluorescent lights buzzing above us, Roland proudly handing me a pair of knockoff Gucci sunglasses like they were diamonds from Tiffany's. Try them on, he urged, grinning like a boy on Christmas morning. I slipped them on. They pinched my nose and felt cheap, the kind of plastic that bends if you look at it too hard. Very bold, I said diplomatically. Roland beamed. Perfect for you. That should have been the end of it, an awkward but harmless gift. But no, Roland had bigger plans. As we were leaving, he frowned at the price tag, muttering something about being ripped off. Before I could stop him, he marched back inside, sunglasses clutched in his hand, and demanded to return them. The cashier, a teenager with acne and the confidence of someone making minimum wage, shook her head. Sorry, sir. All sales final on clearance items. Roland's nostrils flared. He leaned in, lowering his voice in what I think he thought was a menacing tone. Do you know who I am? The kid blinked. I'm a customer? And then Roland did it. He reached into his blazer pocket, pulled out a little leather case, and flipped it open with a snap like he was in a cop show. Federal Bureau of Investigation, he declared. You might want to rethink your policy. My jaw hit the floor. The kid squinted at the badge. I craned my neck. It wasn't even a badge. It was an FBI business card tucked into some cheap leather wallet. The name on it wasn't even Roland's. Roland didn't notice my horror. He leaned in closer, his voice low and theatrical. Now, let's not make this difficult. Issue the refund, and we'll all walk away happy. The kid didn't move. Instead, he reached for the phone under the counter. I think I should call mall security. Roland snapped the wallet shut, his face red. Unbelievable. You people don't know who you're messing with. He turned on his heel, storming out of the shop like a man in a made-for-TV movie. I followed, equal parts mortified and fascinated. Outside, I hissed, "What the hell was that?" He smirked, brushing it off. "Relax. Sometimes you have to flex a little authority." They would have caved if the kid wasn't such a smartass. "That wasn't a badge, Roland. That was a business card, and it didn't even have your name on it." He waved a hand. "Technicalities. We should have left it there, but of course fate, or Roland's ego, had other plans." As we walked through the food court, a security guard approached us. "Sir, can we have a word?" Roland puffed up again, adjusting his tie. "This is harassment. I was simply enforcing my federal rights." I wanted to sink into the floor. People were staring. Phones were out. I swear I saw one girl recording the whole thing, probably already uploading it to TikTok with the caption, "Mall FBI busts Gucci sunglasses scandal." The guard was polite but firm. "Sir, impersonating a federal agent is a crime." Roland barked a laugh. "I am not impersonating anyone. I'm affiliated through family connections. My brother-in-law works with the Bureau. This card proves it." He flashed it again like it was Excalibur. The guard sighed, clearly out of patience. "Sir, I need you to leave the premises." And that's when Roland decided to make it worse. He grabbed my hand, spun me around like we were in some goddamn spy movie, and announced loudly, "She's my witness. She can verify my credentials." All eyes turned to me. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. My choices were, A, lie for this lunatic, or B, save myself. I chose B. "I've literally never seen that card before in my life," I said quickly. The look on Roland's face was priceless, shock, betrayal, then fury. But before he could respond, the guard gestured toward the exit. "Out! Now!" Roland stormed out, dragging me with him. Once we were outside, he rounded on me. "You humiliated me in there." "I humiliated you?" "Roland, you tried to use your brother-in-law's novelty card to return fake Gucci sunglasses. You humiliated yourself." He sneered, his face twisted. "You don't understand power dynamics. You've probably never been with a man who knows how to take control." I barked a laugh. "Oh, I've been with controlling men. The difference is, they didn't get kicked out of a mall by a 17-year-old with a name tag." His eyes narrowed, and for a second I wondered if he was going to lunge at me. Instead, he straightened his tie again, like that would erase the shame, and muttered, "You're just not ready for a man like me." I've been on plenty of bad dates, but nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the guy who decided to stab his own face with a safety pin in the middle of broad daylight. It started like most modern disasters, on an app. His name was Rowan. His profile said he was into punk, philosophy, and long walks. He had a messy haircut that looked artfully disheveled, tattoos creeping up his forearms, and a smirk that suggested trouble in a way I usually found exciting. My friends always teased me that I was drawn to men who were red flags dressed as human beings, and Rowan was basically a carnival banner. But I was bored, lonely, and curious. So when he suggested meeting up for something chill, nothing fancy, I said yes. We agreed on the park downtown, late afternoon, just when the sun dipped low enough to make everything golden. He showed up wearing ripped jeans, a leather jacket, and a chain that jingled with every step. He had a smile that made me want to ignore my instincts, and for the first 20 minutes, things were surprisingly good. We walked along the path, swapping stories. He was witty, clever in a chaotic way, the kind of guy who leaned too close when he talked but made you laugh anyway. He had an energy like he could explode at any moment, but I chalked it up to nervousness. Then the turn happened. We sat down on a park bench. He pulled out a cigarette, lit it, inhaled, then said, "Want to see something hardcore?" I thought he meant a party trick. Maybe he could flip a coin on his knuckles or juggle. I didn't expect him to reach into his jacket pocket and pull out a tiny silver safety pin. What's that for?" I asked, half laughing. He grinned, eyes glinting. "Body modification. Gotta keep life interesting." Before I could answer, he jammed the safety pin straight through his nostril. There was a wet sound, a snap of cartilage giving way, and then blood, bright, shiny red, trickling down his lip. I screamed. People on the walking path turned to stare. Rowan just grinned wider, holding the dangling pin in place like it was jewelry. "See," he said, his voice thick with congestion. "No big deal." But it was a big deal. A huge deal. Blood was dripping onto his leather jacket, streaking down his chin, spattering onto his jeans. He leaned back, nostrils flaring like he'd just proved some cosmic point. "You're bleeding all over yourself." I hissed, fumbling in my bag for tissues. He waved me off. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. Rowan, that's not how noses work. I pressed napkins to his face while people gawked, some filming on their phones. A kid pointed and yelled, "Mom, that man's face is leaking." Rowan laughed, leaning into me, his breath reeking of nicotine. "Bet you didn't expect your date to be this memorable, huh?" I didn't. I expected maybe awkward conversation or bad jokes. Not live impalement. We left the bench, him strutting like a conquering hero, me trailing behind with bloody tissues in my hand. He insisted on buying ice cream from a vendor, blood still smeared across his upper lip like some grotesque mustache. The vendor hesitated but handed him a cone anyway, probably because he didn't want trouble. We sat on a grassy hill, Rowan happily licking chocolate swirl while the tissues under his nose turned scarlet. He leaned closer, eyes locking on mine. "You're hot when you're worried," he murmured. "Makes me want to bleed more, just to see how far you'd go to take care of me." It was equal parts terrifying and strangely intimate, like he wanted me complicit in his self-destruction. I pulled back, heart pounding. "You should maybe see a doctor." He shrugged. "Doctors don't understand art." I should have walked away right then. But instead I stayed. Curiosity mixed with horror, like watching a car crash in slow motion. As the sky darkened, Rowan suggested heading back to his place. Against better judgment, I agreed, part morbid fascination, part foolishness. His apartment was exactly what you'd expect. Posters of bands peeling off the walls, clothes strewn across the floor, ashtrays overflowing. And in the corner, on a cluttered desk, dozens of safety pins. Some bent, some rusted, some still flecked with what I prayed was paint. "This is where I create," he said proudly, motioning to the mess like it was a studio. I swallowed hard. "Create what, exactly?" He pulled out a shoebox and opened it. Inside were photos, grainy, dark, unsettling. People with pins through their lips, their ears, their cheeks. All looking at the camera like it was some kind of ritual. "I document the beauty of raw pain," Rowan said, stroking one of the photos with a blood-stained thumb. That was it. My skin crawled. My stomach turned. This wasn't punk. This wasn't edgy. This was someone who lived on the edge of harm and wanted to drag me into it. When he leaned in, trying to kiss me with his still bloody nose, I jerked back. "Rowan, I think I should go." His smile faltered. For the first time, his eyes darkened, a flash of anger breaking through the bravado. "You're just like the rest," he muttered. "Afraid of what's real." I grabbed my bag and headed for the door, my heart slamming against my ribs. He didn't stop me. He just sat there, blood drying on his face, staring like he could pin me to the wall with his gaze alone. When I finally stumbled out into the night air, I felt like I'd escaped something, not a date, but a trap. And the worst part, 2 days later, he texted me a photo. It was of himself, grinning wildly, with both nostrils pierced through with pins. The caption read, "Thought of you while I did the other side, winky face." I blocked him instantly. But sometimes, when I walk past the park, I swear I see that bench again, stained faintly dark where he bled. A mark left behind, proof that he turned a date into a spectacle. A memory I'll never unsee. When I first met Elias, he seemed like one of those gentle, soft-spoken men you don't expect to have skeletons in their closet. The kind who listened more than he spoke, who ordered tea instead of coffee on our first date, who asked questions about my family like he really cared about the answers. After the string of loud, self-absorbed men I'd been enduring, Elias felt like a safe harbor. His voice was smooth, calm, like a late-night radio host. He had a neat apartment, or so he claimed, and a job in IT that, while not glamorous, meant stability. I should have listened to the little voice in my head when he refused to meet at his apartment for the first 3 dates. Each time he'd wave it off, "It's messy," or, "My landlord's fixing something." I didn't push because honestly I liked keeping it slow. But by the 4th week, curiosity gnawed at me. So when he finally invited me over for dinner, I was weirdly excited. Nervous but excited. His building was a quiet, gray slab tucked into a sleepy street. He buzzed me in, his voice low and almost shy over the intercom. The apartment itself was clean, yes, but sterile, like a showroom. Beige walls, cream couch, no art, no clutter. Almost too clean, too absent of life. Except for one door. It was closed firmly like it had something to hide. And from behind it, I swear I smelled a faint hint of candle wax and old fabric. Elias was charming, attentive. He cooked pasta, poured wine, brushed my hand when he handed me a fork. I relaxed into it, lulled by the way he looked at me like I was precious. But that door, it nagged at me. I kept glancing at it, catching myself, trying not to look suspicious. Finally, after dinner, he noticed. "You're curious about that room," he said, smiling faintly. I froze mid-sip. "What?" "No." "Well, maybe a little." His smile widened, like he'd been waiting. "I can show you, but only if you promise not to think less of me." Something in his tone, half warning, half plea, made the hairs on my arms rise. But I nodded anyway. He led me to the door, unlocked it, and pushed it open. At first, I thought it was just storage. Shelves lined the walls, objects arranged with meticulous care. Then my eyes adjusted to the dim lamplight, and I realized what I was looking at. A shrine. Not religious, not spiritual, but dedicated, obsessively, to his dead grandparents. Photos of them, dozens, framed and unframed, covered every surface. Their wedding portrait in black and white, candid shots of them in the garden, even blurry Polaroids of them sitting in their old recliners. Their clothes were draped carefully on mannequins, their shoes lined up like soldiers. On a low table, candles burned in front of 2 urns. The smell hit me then, old fabric, melted wax, and dust that clung like a second skin. "This is where I honor them," Elias said softly, stepping inside like a priest entering a temple. I stayed at the threshold, my stomach lurching. "This is a lot." He laughed quietly, not offended. "They raised me. They were my parents in every way that mattered. It's important to keep them close." I didn't know what to say. Part of me pitied him, but another part, the bigger part, wanted to run. The intimacy of the room was suffocating. It felt wrong, invasive, like I was trespassing on something private and unhinged. Then Elias turned to me, eyes glinting. "I think they'd have liked you." My skin crawled. I muttered something about needing more wine, and backed out of the room. He closed the door gently behind him, as if sealing it shut. The night should have ended there. I should have invented an excuse and left. But Elias was persuasive, and I was still under the haze of wine and politeness. He convinced me to stay longer, to watch a movie on his cream couch. He pulled a blanket over us, touched my thigh with deliberate slowness. It was almost normal again, except for the image burned in my brain. Those lifeless mannequins wearing his grandmother's clothes, the candles flickering in front of urns, the whisper in his voice when he said I reminded him of family. Then it got worse. As we kissed, tentative at first, his hand slipped under my shirt. I went with it until he whispered, "Don't worry. They're watching over us." I froze. "Excuse me?" He kissed my neck, oblivious to the horror on my face. "They approve. I can feel it. They want me to be happy." I shoved him back, heart hammering. "Elias, that's messed up." He blinked at me, confusion flashing to anger. "You don't understand. Respect is everything. Family is everything." His voice sharpened. "If we're going to be together, my mother needs assurance you'll respect them. She'll need a letter." "A letter?" "A notarized letter," he said firmly, eyes boring into mine. "From your mother, promising she'll never disrespect them, that she won't interfere with us." My jaw dropped. "You're joking." He wasn't. His face was dead serious, his voice steady. I laughed nervously, trying to defuse it. "That's insane. I'm not asking my mom to sign legal documents about your dead grandparents." His expression darkened further. "If she won't respect them, she won't respect me. And I won't tolerate that." The air in the apartment thickened. My pulse roared in my ears. Suddenly, I wasn't just creeped out, I was afraid. Afraid of the calm way he said it, the unshakable conviction. I stood up, grabbing my bag. "I think I should go." He didn't move at first, just sat there staring. Then slowly he smiled. "You'll come around. They all do." I left as quickly as I could, my hands shaking as I unlocked my car. I half expected him to follow, but he didn't. I should have known something was off the moment he showed up holding flowers. Not roses. Not tulips. Lilies. Big, white funeral lilies. He stood in the doorway of the restaurant with them dangling loosely in his hand, the petals brushing against his black coat. Everyone else waiting for a table glanced at him, like he'd wandered in from a funeral procession. He smiled faintly and said, "For you." I laughed because what else could I do? You don't reject flowers, even when they smell like a wake. I took them, murmuring thanks, and we sat down. His name was Cashin, and we'd met online. His profile said he worked in death care, which I assumed meant insurance. Halfway through the first glass of wine, he corrected me. "No," he said, cutting his steak with delicate precision. "I'm a mortician." It was the way he said it, like it was something holy, that made me shiver. I asked him what it was like, expecting some vague, polite answer. Instead, he launched into embalming fluid ratios, eye caps, and sutures, speaking over candlelight like someone else might talk about art or travel. I kept sipping wine, smiling, nodding, trying to pretend this was normal. My hands smelled like lilies, the flowers resting beside my plate. He leaned in, lowering his voice like he was telling a secret. People never realize how beautiful the human body looks when properly preserved. I could show you sometime. I nearly choked on my pasta. My laugh came out high-pitched, brittle. You mean like, He cut me off with a small grin. Like you. I could make you look beautiful forever. It should have ended right there. I should have grabbed my coat and run. But there was something about him, pale, sharp, eyes so dark they looked almost black, that held me. And maybe, I'll admit it, I was a little turned on by how brazen he was. I'd had boring dates, dozens of them. Safe men, bland men. But Cashin? He had danger in him. So when his hand brushed mine across the table, instead of pulling away, I let it linger. His fingers were cold, smooth, unsettlingly strong. He smiled without showing his teeth. You have perfect hands. Long, delicate bones. I could place them just so, folded over silk. I swallowed hard. My thighs pressed together under the table, though I hated myself for it. That's creepy. Is it? He murmured. Or is it the most honest compliment you've ever been given? He didn't look away. His gaze pinned me, heavy, unrelenting. I felt heat crawl up my neck. I couldn't tell if I was afraid or turned on, maybe both. My body didn't care which. The waiter broke the moment, setting down dessert, tiramisu for me, black coffee for him. Cashin stirred sugar into his cup slowly, eyes never leaving me. Then, very softly, he said, I'd like to kiss you. I nodded before I even thought about it. His lips were cool, almost dry, tasting faintly of coffee. It wasn't tender. It wasn't hungry either. It was studying, like he was testing the shape of me. I shivered, and when he pulled back, he smirked like he'd won something. We left the restaurant, and he walked me to my car. The lilies were still in my arms, their scent nauseating. I should have said goodnight, but instead I found myself leaning against the car door waiting. He stepped close, one hand braced against the roof beside me. His mouth brushed my ear. Do you know what rigor mortis feels like? I gasped, my body jolting with equal parts fear and arousal. Jesus, Cashin. He pressed his lips against my neck. His tongue traced the line of my pulse, slow and deliberate. My knees buckled, my breath caught. And then too quickly he whispered, I could keep you like this. Forever. A chill ripped through me. I shoved him back, clutching the lilies like a shield. You're insane. He only smiled, tilting his head like he was amused. Maybe, but you'll think of me tonight. And damn him, he was right. I drove home, furious at myself for letting him get that close. But in bed, the scent of lilies still clinging to my skin, I couldn't stop replaying his words. His hands. His mouth. The way he made death sound almost erotic. I hated it. But I also hated how wet I was, alone in the dark, when I thought about him preserving me, folding my hands over silk. That was our first and last date. I blocked his number the next day. But weeks later, I found a package outside my door. Inside was a single lily, pressed and dried, sealed in glass. No note. And I realized, with a shiver, that maybe I hadn't escaped him at all. You know that feeling when your gut screams, turn around, go home, order takeout instead, but you ignore it because you've already put on eyeliner and shoes? That was me, standing outside the wine bar, waiting for a man who had introduced himself online as Lucian the Clairvoyant. I thought it was a joke. His profile picture looked like a Renaissance fair reject, cape, amulet, eyeliner thicker than mine. But in his messages, he was surprisingly charming. Witty even. He said things like, I've seen us together in a vision, and our fates are intertwined. Cheesy, sure, but after 2 glasses of Pinot and too many lonely nights, it sounded romantic. So when he appeared in front of me, tall, pale, with a scraggly goatee and an actual velvet cloak, I swallowed my doubt and forced a smile. Ah, my radiant star child, he boomed, bowing deeply, nearly smacking his head on the patio umbrella. I foresaw this moment. I wanted to laugh, but he was dead serious. People stared. A group of college kids at the next table snickered. I muttered a hello and let him lead me inside, regretting everything already. The date started weird and got weirder. He didn't look at the menu. He didn't even order. Instead, he held my hand across the table, eyes locked on mine, and whispered, I sense deep longing in you. A hunger that goes beyond food. A hunger for flesh. My cheeks burned. The waiter froze mid-step. I yanked my hand back, muttering, "Maybe just a Chardonnay?" Lucian smirked, licking his lips like he was auditioning for a low-budget vampire flick. "You can't hide your aura from me. It burns red, primal, dripping." The poor waiter bolted, and I considered following him. But part of me wanted to see how far this circus act would go. Lucian launched into a monologue about his psychic powers. How he'd once predicted a thunderstorm 3 days early. How his neighbor's dog only barked at him because dogs sense higher frequencies. He claimed he could astral project into women's dreams and give them cosmic orgasms. He leaned close as he said it, his breath hot and smelling faintly of cloves. "Last night," he purred, "I visited you. You were begging me. You cried out my name. I almost spit my wine." "Really?" "Because last night I was in sweatpants eating Doritos and watching true crime." He wasn't fazed. "Yes, but in the astral plane, you were naked." The table behind us erupted in laughter. I wanted to crawl under the booth. Things only spiraled. He tried to read my palm, tracing circles with his fingers in ways that felt more like groping than mysticism. He told me I had a fertile line and a sensual destiny, whispering the words like bad pickup lines wrapped in crystals. I excused myself to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and seriously debated climbing out the window. But when I returned, he was waiting with a solemn look. "I must tell you something," he said, clutching his amulet. "A great danger lurks over this evening. Something catastrophic. A flood." I almost laughed. Until 10 minutes later, he proved himself right. We'd moved outside. He'd convinced me to walk with him under the moonlight. Big mistake. Halfway down the street, he suddenly froze, clutching his stomach. "Oh no," he groaned, staggering like a drunk wizard. "The prophecy, it's happening." "What prophecy?" I asked, stepping back. "The release," he moaned, doubling over. "The flood, it's begun." And then he pissed himself. Right there on the sidewalk in front of me, in his ridiculous velvet cloak. At first I thought maybe he'd spilled his drink. But no. The dark stain spread, dripping down his pants, pooling in his shoe. The smell hit seconds later. People walking by gawked. A couple gasped. Someone actually clapped. I stood frozen, horrified. Lucian straightened, eyes wild. "It's not what you think. This is sacrifice. I have released the waters of purification." "Nope," I muttered, backing away. "You've released piss. Just piss." He lurched toward me, urine squishing in his boots, grabbing my arm. "Don't leave. The Spirit said you'd stay. You're mine. Bound forever in golden baptism." "Jesus Christ," I hissed, yanking free. "I didn't sign up for a wizard piss cult." I bolted, heels clacking against the pavement. Behind me, I heard him shouting, "You'll regret this. The vision isn't over." I didn't stop until I was in my car, doors locked, hands shaking on the wheel. My phone buzzed with a text. From him. "Do not fear what you witnessed. It was foretold. We are joined now. My waters touched the earth where you stood. We are eternal."